And we're live.
Yeehaw!
Welcome, everybody. This is the very, very first episode of Inspired Tarot with Miss Psychic D, and I'm your host, Ben Thompson. Today, we've come on today to have a bit of a chat about why the channel was created, why we've come together to talk about all things awakening and woo-woo. I thought we would start off our shows by having a bit of a conversation about the two of us. I'll start off with our guest this evening, Miss Psychic D. Would you like to do a bit of a bio? Tell us about yourself.
Oh, well, hello, everyone, and thank you so much, Ben, for creating this. I totally believe in your mission and your statement and what your intention is with the channel. So absolute honour, absolute pleasure. Well, most people know I am Miss Psychic D, but my real name is Danielle. I am a natural born psychic, so I have the ability to see possible future outcomes for people. I've been on my own personal development journey for nearly 30 years, so the chances of me being there, done that, got through it, and come out the other side is, yep, pretty much spot on. And I'll have to say, you have to excuse the noise around me. Obviously, we're in the flood affected area, so we've got a lot of mowing and whippersnippering and noise. So, and I can't shut the windows because it's just too stifling. So, yeah. But I've been a professional reader for nearly 20 years. I've worked at a lot of psychic fairs. I used to have a column in a local newspaper. So I've done a lot of things, but then my life sort of changed when I started caring for my terminally ill mum and obviously raising my own children and all that sort of stuff. So now I'm back into it. Yeah, I'm passionate about law of attraction. I'm a certified advanced practitioner in law of attraction. So combine that with my psychic abilities and my connection with spirit. Yeah, I've just got the ability for spirit to give me the guidance and the direction that people need or need to know or how to move forward in their own circumstance. So, yeah, and I love it.
Yeah.
Passionate.
Yeah. Likewise, I've had my own readings by you, Danielle, and I think a lot of the messages that do come back are always pretty much have a very positive slant. And look, there's always going to be challenges for anyone that is living in this reality. There's always that duality, but I think whether you're in a slump or whether you're in on cloud nine, having a positive message about what potentials there are in your future. Not, absolutely, this is definitely going to happen. But, if you do the work, if you have the intent and you push forward with that, these are your potentials. It's always good to know that there is a light on the horizon. There's something really good to look out for. So, I always love sitting down and hearing messages from you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So for the channel, I mean, myself, this is completely new to me. I'm comfortable with sitting in front of an audience of people and talking, and it's always been work related that's sort of given me this kind of experience to talk in front of a not a large crowd but a small crowd, and to talk about whatever comes to mind. And I think for me, this is really a transformational time for me, especially it feels like 2022 is going to be one of those years where I just learn and grow quite a lot and move my life in another direction. And the purpose, I suppose, every time I say, please do like, share, and subscribe, the cliche YouTube spiel for all the audience members. I think the main purpose for this channel for the audience is to see how myself and also potentially the audience as well can come onto the show, have a listen to some of the guests that come online, have a listen to what Danny and I are bringing to the audience and what Spirit is bringing to the audience as well, so that we can get a really good feel for where potentially our new era is going. What potentials are there? Because I was thinking before the show, how do you explain a new era, the age of Aquarius that we're moving into? What's the thing that the audience can really relate to? And to me, the first thing that came to mind was, you know, when we have young children or even older children, we'll sit them down and we'll say to them, look, you can do, be, go anywhere you want.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that in today's society, there's been so many layers of weight and stress that have been put on top of us. And sometimes we stop believing that anything is possible. And so I suppose the purpose of this channel is that I want to help lift the perceptual layers of, no, this is too hard, or if only I did it, no one else is going to join me. Right? Those types of levels of thinking, I want those layers to evaporate so that, you know, everyone can come back to the core of who they are, make some different decisions. I think we're at this critical junction in human history where we can make, do, go anywhere we want. But now's the choice. Now's the time for us to make those choices, individual choices and the collective choices around where we want to go. And that's why I'm doing this.
And I think it's a great idea too, because that's why I jumped on board as soon as you told me about it, because so many people learn in so many different ways. They're connected with so many different things. I mean, for myself, I'm an energetic timeline reader, so I can actually see timelines on things. Whereas some people are really into the astrology side of things. They follow the numbers and that, and then there's just so many different and diverse ways of learning and developing one's own self, so to speak. That your platform is going to be amazing for that, because you'll give not only really gifted people airtime, you know, to share their gift with the world, because that's what we are first and foremost, is of service. That's why we have the abilities. But yeah, to cater for all people's interests, I think that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I'll just agree with
like
myself.
Attracts like.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the collective at the moment may be progressing to that point. Slowly goes, I suppose. But I'd like to move along with the collective, move along with the crowd, and obviously the direction that we go is limitless. We'll see how it plays out. I think it's a really exciting time in human history. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then a lot of people have to understand too, where as a mass conscious, we're still very heavily programmed. So a lot of people at the moment, a lot of people have been doing the work and are there, but some people are just learning how to unprogram all the beliefs and things that they've been brought up with, whether it's from their family, whether it's from the government, whether it's from wherever, from friends. I think a lot of people, it's a time of, like, the mass awakening is more about getting to know yourself, trusting yourself, honoring yourself, and coming back to who you really are as an individual, regardless of what's happening and who's around you and what Dad's saying and Auntie Sue's saying and everybody else. You know what I mean? It's you've got to come back to self. It's a self-sufficient time. That's probably the best word. It's about being more self-sufficient. Too many, because people get too swayed. You know what I mean? Is it this way or is it that way? Should I do that? The amount of people that come to me for a reading and say, I don't know all your rules. What do I do? You know, they're so scared of doing something right or wrong. And I always say to them, there is no right or wrong. It's your way. You've got to do it your way. And I'm proudly self-taught, spirit-led. I have gone to other, I mean, the Psychic Guild in Brisbane was the best for me, because that's what they shared. They helped you increase your ability, not how it's said in a book or on Google or anything like that. It's just trusting yourself and knowing yourself well enough to know what your instincts are telling you. So it's about being your own advocate, your own voice, and having the confidence to put it out there. And it doesn't matter whether you're doing psychic readings or you're a nurse or a doctor, or doesn't matter what you're doing in life. You know, I see it all the time. Like, sometimes I'd rather go to a paramedic for medical advice than I would a doctor. It's just it's who they are. They may channel themselves with the medical medium side of things, you know, that they do things themselves. And, you know, like I say, we just got to be our own advocate and do things and find the resources that we need as individuals that's in alignment with our growth.
Yeah, and honestly, the last 2 years myself, I've really gone out of my way to find new and maybe fringe resources that I can find that can really explain to me where I feel I'm going. I'm trying to be led. One of the I suppose the buzz lines for the show is being spirit led, and that doesn't necessarily mean, you know, higher spirit. Maybe to me that could just be listening to my own inner self. That's my spirit. So I'm being led by my own spirit rather than being led by my over analytical brain. You know, if I can do that, then, you know, I'll have comfort that I'm going in the right direction, I think.
Exactly. We all have an internal guidance system. Our brain is really just there to protect us and keep our physical vessel going and to, you know, prevent fear or anything of that nature. But, you know, we're extensions of positive source energy first and foremost. And we have an internal guidance system, and that's our feeling space. And most people know it. It's if you're around a group of people and you're not feeling real good, it's not the happy party atmosphere that you were thinking or assuming it was going to be. That's your sign to hightail and get out of there, not sit there and endure it and just push through. Obviously, everything is circumstantial as well. So in the circumstance, you had a family meeting and you can't just bail because it's getting very uncomfortable and your guidance is saying, go home, go home, go home. You got to remember that you have a choice in how you feel in that moment. So it's about choosing the best possible feeling spot, whether it's hiding in sitting in a corner and a cup of tea, minding your own business, or whether it's like, you know, for the more assertive people, they will just frolic and play and do what they normally do anyway, with total disregard of how their family are viewing them. So, like I say, it's sort of about honouring yourself first and your feeling space. If it doesn't feel right, leave it alone. I always say that. And if it's meant to be, it'll come back because it's alignment.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
and we do it for the rest of our lives too. It's not just something that you just do and it's like, yay, it's a lifestyle. You do it every single day.
Yeah, and often we find that, you know, when we've learned a lesson, we move forward, and then it pops up, you know, 2 years down the track, 5 years, 6 years down the track, and it's really, I suppose, another lesson to say, hey, did you really learn that? You know, let's show the universe, let's show yourself that you really did learn that lesson, and that no matter what comes at you, you know, it's solid within yourself. You've learned that lesson. You can move on. You can, you know, do the level up, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So one thing I wanted to say as well, a bit of housekeeping. I've just noticed we do have 4 people on the stream. Thank you very much for jumping on, the 4 of you. We
hey,
really appreciate your attendance here. One thing I wanted to say though as well, I haven't set up any moderators just yet. As we get more people from the community jump on and see our live streams, I'll start putting some moderators in just to help with some of the trolls. Unfortunately, I can see that there's already been one that's jumped on. I've had to do a bit of a block. Don't particularly want to have those people jumping on this community. So if that is you, you know, please stay away. We don't really need that here. So along with, we'll get past all the hygiene and the house cleaning. The next topic of conversation that I wanted to move on to, I suppose, which does dovetail onto decisions that people make, decisions that I've made in recent weeks and months, and also yourself, Danielle, is the topic of homeschooling. And you know, if I was to take my current self, my current perception, and look forward, you know, to this time 10 years ago, I cannot honestly see myself making the same kinds of decisions that I'm making right now. Whether that's growth or whatever you want to label it as. But you know what? I saw myself sitting in a suburban house, 4 or 5 kids, small block of land. Kids go to school. I'm working all day. My wife is working all day, and we come home and see each other in the afternoons, and we rinse and repeat. And there was always something that was wrong about that situation. It felt wrong to me. Quite a ways back, and even when I recount now as an 8-year-old boy, just going through the mouse wheel of life, it didn't feel right at all. And looking at how things have progressed over the last 2 years, there's been so many revelations, so many changes to our society that I look back and think to myself, is this, and my wife, is this exactly what we want to do? Do we want to be sending our children to school? And is there a better way? I think is more to my point. Do I feel like there's a better way that sits better with me, that sits better with my wife? And that's when we started going down the rail of homeschooling. So I know you've been in a similar situation where you've done homeschooling in the past. You're now starting homeschooling again in the now. What can you say, I suppose, even just thinking about from a choices point of view, where do you see homeschooling in the now? What's the really good reason, I suppose, to start homeschooling your child?
I think it truly depends on the needs of the child themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it's environmental as well, given the locations where people live and the schooling systems that are in place and the teachers that are there. And it's a very big dynamic. But for me, myself, the first time I homeschooled in Queensland, I did so because I was caring for my mum full time, and I could wake up in the morning and she'd be having a turn, so I'd have to call an ambulance, and I couldn't get him to school, and it ended up being too disruptive for him. And I was home most of the time. We were homebound most of the time, but we lived in a beautiful space that we could use it wisely. And he did go back to school for a little while because that was his choice. I say to my kids, you live by your own choices at the end of the day, no matter how old they are. Obviously, I'm going to keep them safe and guide them. But yeah, he ended up going back, and that was very short-lived because the school took it upon themselves to send him to counselling, and we're telling him he's got psychological issues because of the trauma he's experiencing in the home place. And it was just being part of that dynamic. I just went, no way. I homeschooled him. But and he did really well. See, the difference with my son Mackenzie is that he's a learner. He thrives. He's learning things beyond my years before I even know about him, and he's naturally driven that way. So it's not like he's lazy or anything. So whatever. But yeah, back into the schooling system. He had we come down to the New South Wales here. He loved the primary school. When we found a primary school here, he absolutely loved it. The teachers were amazing. I actually got complimented by his grade 4 teacher that was the best decision I could have made for Mackenzie, given because it does have sensitivity issues and whatnot. So yeah, and absolutely thrived in private school. But as soon as he went to high school, that's when everything started going pear-shaped, real bad. I was actually going to withdraw him a couple of times just from the lack of support. And, it's my child getting picked on and teased and bullied, but they seem to be defending the culprit. It was the good ones that were being removed to get away from these people. And it was just he wanted to stay because he loved basketball and loved his couple of mates. So I left him there. But obviously with the government rules that come on for his own health and mental well-being, this year I said no, because I have the choice. I've got the choice, and it's for his best interest. We may go back to school, we may not. Who knows? But at this point in time, because all we have is now. And I honestly wake up each day and I have some sort of a script because I have bookings and things like that. But we just do what we feel is best day after day after day after day.
Yeah,
So it's depending on the lifestyle you like. I like that freedom-based lifestyle.
yeah,
I like the
yeah,
fact that
absolutely.
I have to move. I have to move at the moment anyway, and it's so liberating to me. And although it's daunting, it's liberating for me to know that I can go anywhere now. I'm not stuck near a school in a ballpark that may be above my means or anything of that nature. So, so go back to your question. At the end of the day, you know, as a family, we love freedom, we love flexibility, we love stability, we love security. We go back to the feeling space of our intention, our desires, and all that sort of stuff, and we work from there.
Yeah. Look, I was having a think about this. You know, what I would say in respect to homeschooling and all of that sort of thing. I think that being able to individualize education. So, as you were saying, you're talking about circumstance. Individualizing education for children, I think, is an area of deficiency when it comes to schools. When my firstborn son went to school, you know, you see them learning new things. They're all very excited, and you know, you start seeing them learning. You see them reading, and they're progressing. They're meeting new friends, and they're set up their own sort of social network, and it does look good. But then what happened in our circumstance was, I think, with the COVID lockdowns that were occurring, that it gave us a contrast. We could see exactly where our son was at, what we thought our son's level was at, and I think we both thought that we could do better. And
Right.
that's what spurred on the thinking to go to the next level. You know, I've had some conversations with people just locally and told them about homeschooling, and some of the responses that I've received were, is that legal? Can you do that? Is it possible? And you know, I think it kind of, it's a bit telling, is that even when a parent, let's say we're talking about not myself, but people out there in the community, are looking for options, or they see a scenario that's playing out at a school with their children, they think to themselves, is there something I can do? What's the solution to this problem? Now, homeschooling is not necessarily going to be a solution to every problem that exists within school, right? But for some, it does. And I think when we jumped into it ourselves, it was quite difficult, because the only tools that we had were the tools that we knew. And you know, with my wife being a trained school teacher, that was exactly the route that we went down, right? Which was recording, testing, marking, planning, you know, following a particular curriculum, focusing in X amount of time on a particular subject, and going through all the normal structures that are in place in schools. And it wasn't until we started basically playing through that scenario ourselves, we felt a level of resistance. You know, we really came up against resistance with children, and it then forces you into that solution mode again of, well, okay, how do I get past these level of resistance? And sometimes, you know, at least for me, originally, I thought to myself, well, it's a compliance issue. It's a discipline issue. Just sit down and do the work. Said that a few times. Didn't feel right. Didn't feel right at all. And then, okay, let's think of a different solution. What can we do here? let's try the engagement side. Oh, why don't you want to do the work? Ask the question to the child, why do you not want to do the work? And you get a variety of different answers. But the next step after I or my wife asked the question, why don't you want to do the work? The answers started to appear, and basically they weren't interested.
Yeah.
And then, after having conversations week after week, night after night with my wife, came to the realization that, hey, we're trying to push knowledge into these child's heads. And how, in that scenario where you're basically, saying, sit down, shut up, you'll be taught what I tell you to be taught. And you're going to absorb it all, and you're going to like it. It doesn't work. That level of resistance just it doesn't feel right to the parent, doesn't visually see the results from the child, and you then start thinking of another way. And to be quite honest, we're not perfect. We still are trying to juggle the scenario of 4 boys and all their individual needs. But I think the path that we're exploring at the moment is a label that I don't particularly like. I don't think it's descriptive because, again, each family is different. But there's a way of doing it called unschooling, and I think child engagement and interest-led learning is definitely, we're not deep into that right now, but it certainly feels like the path that could lead to better outcomes. And I think it's not the easiest way either, because as parents, you've got to really unplug yourself from the way you were taught when you were a child. You went through the meat grinder, you went through the system, and so therefore, when you're approaching it in that way, where you're looking to the child for where they would like to go, what they're interested in, it does take a lot of the observational work. And I personally am not doing it myself. It's my wife who's doing it, but I can certainly see that a lot of the headspace during the day is figuring it out. What's the child want? I can't see what this child wants, so therefore let's try some new different things to try and figure out what this child likes. And if I take this all back to what does this new age of Aquarius look like? Are we all going to be doing the same thing as we were doing in the previous age? In the age of Pisces, where everyone goes in a group, everyone's swimming around in a group, following each other. Are we going to be doing that in this new age, or are we going to be doing a combination of things? And I think where things may start to head, I hope, and I'm sort of watching it go in that direction, is that people are just making choices that fit the now.
You have to some degree.
Yeah.
And I always say knowledge is power. And I think when I was listening to you, I sort of was a spirit channeling, but we get so caught up in the outcomes of things. It's so when you see your child doing nothing, so to speak, all week, but following you around and asking you 4,000 questions each and every day about random stuff, you're like, I just can't answer anymore. And all that, but that's learning. The outcome will come when the time comes where they need that. And I'm lucky my son's 13, and he's got a brain of a sponge, and even we had no communications whatsoever for the last week, for 5 days and stuff like that. But he was if we just, he was coming up with solutions and stuff off his own, out of his own self. I was quite
creativity, solution mind,
yeah. And it's little things like we'll go down and buy an ice cream or something and enjoy an ice cream and communicate and people observe and do stuff like that. But then we look at the GST and that on the docket. We'll read the docket. How's it broken down? That, to me, it's about learning the real world way of doing things, age specific.
Yeah, I was going to say yes, I agree, but then it sounds like it starts to sound like a bit of an echo chamber. I'm trying my very best not to sound a bit preachy. I hear that and I think to myself, that's exactly right. It's living life, and I know I felt this way when I went through school. It's sort of like I go through these motions of going through year 1 and this stage, year 2, year 3, 5, all the way to the end to get to your HSC. At the end, before you go, you can choose or not choose to go to university. It feels like you don't start life until the end of that road, and the end of that road is 17 or 18. And living life, you really want to start doing it when you've just, when you're young, not when you should be thinking about other things. Just discovering yourself at the age of 17 or 18, even when I look back at myself and I think, well, what did the little Ben want to do? At age 8, did I really discover my own talents, or am I only going to be 52 and look back and go, oh, yeah, I kind of started figuring this stuff out when I got to about 40. I'm hoping in this scenario, and I know it's a hope of a lot of parents, is you want your children to do better than you did. And I think that's one of the driving forces for making that change to homeschooling for us, is that, well, these kids, hopefully, if we continue going down the path we're going, I can see a future where they're going to know themselves a lot better than I did. They're going to know what their strengths are. They're going to be confident in their strengths because it's been tested.
Yeah,
it's been tested because they're living life. They're testing it every day. You don't have to sit down and go get a New South Wales Department of Education test and write something down on a piece of paper and have it marked to really be tested. You get tested in life all the time. And I mean, both you and I, we've been out of school for a very, very long time. We get tested all the time. So the whole concept of living life and being tested every day really helps for me look at that way of schooling and look back with a bit of confidence that it's not doing nothing. I've heard a lot of comments around unschooling to be, oh, we're doing nothing, and it really isn't. It's very intense on the teacher, the guider, of the child or children, to be present with them and understand or even intuit what the child needs at any given time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, in a school situation, when you have a ratio of one teacher to 20 students, I'm not certain. I have not seen that level of outcome come out of the school system. So I think there's some benefit. If there is a home environment where the parent can really introduce a rich environment to the child, it could be an option. It could definitely be an option. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important that people who consider doing this, you've got to really know yourself as well. Like, I have, like I said, I've been doing this journey of my own, building my own self up for over 30 years. So, you know, I come up with a concept which I call brain bands. And I was actually going to get little bands for my kids and stuff. And it stands for B for brain. So B is to be brave. I want my children to be brave, and I will provide them an environment to be brave. R is resilient. I want my children, well, I want, but, you know, it's my desire for my children to be resilient, because they've been through the hard yards. They're building their own resilience through pretty traumatic stuff, but they're the most kindest, nicest, caring people. A is assertive. You know, I want my children to be in an environment where they can be assertive. I want them to be intuitive. I want them to trust their intuition, you know? So, and end is neutral. So you're not for or against, you're not hating or loving, you're not on either side. You're basically fence sitter, so to speak. But I developed that over my years as an individual, and I know myself and I know my strengths and my weaknesses, and, you know, and all that sort of stuff. If I wasn't that person, homeschooling probably wouldn't be a thing for me. So it's really important that you know yourself enough and have confidence in yourself enough to know that I mean, kids are just little freedom thinkers. That's why we went through the cauldron in our day, you know, it's 1 by 1, 2 by 2, 3 by 3, repetition, boring. And then all of a sudden they said, let's make this fun. Let's make this fun for the kids. And all of a sudden the kids got engaged because it was fun. But, you know, one child may have learnt the colour from that activity and one may have learnt the texture. How do you know? But if you provide them with the resources, you provide them with whatever you can, and give them the choice to be smart enough to allow their own, you know, to make up their own choices, their own decisions, to be led somewhat by them. Like I say, I can only go by experience, and from my own son and from kids that I've known in the area as well, they're thriving because of it. Yeah. Half of these kids would be better off being sent down to these flood towns and help clean up and mop up and know the strategy and strategic moves that everyone needs to make right now than probably a fully grown adult. You know what I mean? Because they just live in the real world, so to speak. And I don't want to sound off the cuff by saying that, but they just have the skills and stuff that you need these days. They're not taught that in school.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, prior to even considering this path, there was always that understanding that it was very much a rigid structure within school that hadn't changed, and the experience was very much the same for me that I saw happening for my firstborn son, and you know, I felt like, well, you know, with a progressive kind of a mindset, are we improving on things, or are we staying rigid in the system that really, you know, I don't have another term other than, you know, factory or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, are we improving? And
it depends on the world you're living in. It depends on the world that you're choosing. It's some people love that structured 9 to 5 programmed. Government say jump, they say how high. Yes, we'll do that, master. Yes. Some people thrive in that environment, so good on them. They'll thrive. But there's some people that don't learn or live that way. Hence communities. Hence people living hinterland and creating their own little hubs and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah, and look, biases aside, you know, we hopefully we all know and understand that, you know, living under restrictions of any sort, or living in total freedom, we can make choices every day, and not everyone's going to make the same choices. But I think at least what I want to achieve today is just let people know that there are other options out there.
Absolutely.
And, you know, if things aren't working the way that you had hoped or you want to see for your children, maybe it is worth having a bit of a look and considering what that might be like. Now, it's a huge shift. You can't have...
Massive.
a scenario where both parents are working, you would have to also change your work life somehow, because most parents, that I at least have around me here in my community here in Sydney, they're getting up awfully early, getting home awfully late. There's a lot
Yep.
of before and after school care that's required. You almost essentially need to have one person working, the other parent at home. If you've got more than one.
Oops. Got a bit of an interruption. Hopefully that's not me again.
Child, it's quite difficult.
You're freezing up on my end, Ben.
Now?
Yep,
Okay.
that's all right.
Hopefully we're back. Hopefully we're back now.
Yeah. It makes you freeze. Don't move.
You can
Don't
hear?
move. Yeah, I can see you now.
Okay, great. So, look, I think if we're going to move into connectivity issues, we haven't really touched it on this episode, but Northern New South Wales right now. So today's the 7th of March, 2022. Here in Australia, Northern New South Wales and Queensland, we've had quite a lot of rain, more than 1 year's worth of rain in a day. It's continuing to rain. We've got reports all over southern Queensland and northern New South Wales, Northern Rivers area, parts of Lismore and Tweed Heads and all over that region, where we've had quite a significant amount of rain coming in, and a lot of people in trouble, need assistance. They've had their entire lives washed away, and they're really feeling the pinch at the moment. Communication is not so great. Danielle's living in that region, and the internet's been cut for 4 to 5 days, causing significant amount of impact on local businesses and her community's ability to be able to communicate to the outside world. So a lot of rumor, a lot of this might be happening, that might not be happening. But now we're seeing on social media some really compelling videos around what is actually happening on the ground, and it's quite disturbing. Danielle, do you have something to say?
I've never experienced anything like this in my lifetime, ever. And I'm going to be really honest, the community have been amazing. I mean, I'm quite, like I say, where I am, we're blocked off. It's flooded basically all around us. We are our own little island, so to speak. But even our neighbours helping each other out and doing stuff like that's been wonderful. But they've had, like I say, I can only say from my perspective, but there's been no assistance, no support. It's been all the locals, all the community. Only just today, which is what, day 6 or 7 or whatever, have the army supposedly gone in to do something. But a lot of it to me is show pony stuff. There's no government help. There's nothing. There are a lot of people out there documenting it as it is, so the truth will prevail. But in all honesty, because I am a strong empath and I pick up on the universal mass conscious energy, it's terrible. It's so terrible.
Yeah.
It's not even the loss of stuff. It's the fact that support was not there. I mean, a friend of mine just posted that a lady that had a 3-month-old, she was still breastfeeding. She was still stuck on the roof until yesterday. Her breast milk dried up. She was so dehydrated. Her and her baby ended up being rushed to a hospital. Like if the helicopters and all that were there doing what they say they're doing, they would have been whipped up within 24 to 48 hours. These are stories that are going to come to light, that are going to expose the truth of how it was. So, yeah, you'll hear a lot of debates, and there's going to be a lot of trolls out there. A lot of the houses here are being ransacked. People are stealing their stuff, even though it's flooded. It's just, but at the end of the day, and like I say, it's everything. It's the smell in the air, like the smell in the air at the moment. It's really pungent, and I'm not even going to complain about the small things like Coles not having food and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, honestly, on the ground, people, real life people people weren't allowed to go and help because they weren't,
Yeah.
They said no.
Yeah.
So that I've got friends that have actually been on jet skis, canoes, boats, whatever they could, and went out and did their stuff or whatever. There was one SES boat, and they were just sort of in the middle, just sitting there. Whereas people are climbing into their roofs and having this much air because the waters just rose so quickly. It's just it's gobsmacking, and I just don't know what's happened to humanity. I really felt that over the last few days.
Look, I think in a situation like that, we here in Australia we've had over the let's just say last 3 years, we've had fires, we've had earthquakes, we've now had floods. With the pandemic over the past few years as well, we've had business closures and all sorts of different types of challenges. And, the old saying of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I really hope that what we're seeing on social media and what we're can visually see isn't a representation of the collective. I really hope that it's just the odd person here and there.
I picked up a beautiful, which I live by now, about a month ago, and I can't remember who said it, so I'm afraid I can't quote, but he said, if you give anyone the power to feed you, you give them the power to starve you. And that really hit home for me. So, like I say, I love living in this community. Like I say, we haven't been affected too much, but what you see happening everywhere else, just the giving and the receiving and all that sort of stuff, they don't need anybody. They're doing it fine. So it's.
I'm thinking to myself now. Let's have a look at, I think, into the future. Let's ask the questions if we could. Danielle, do you have a deck that would your normal tarot card deck that would be appropriate for these types of questions? Can we ask the cards what is the next steps? What's the future look like for people in northern New South Wales and Queensland? What does Spirit have to ask them to tell them?
I think a really important thing to remember is that we are all creators of our own reality as individuals. But if we create a wonderful lifestyle for ourselves and a wonderful reality for ourselves, we will become part of a community of like-minded people, because it's law of attraction. It's like attracts like. Yeah. So in particular for the disaster that just happened and stuff, I can honestly say, just through Spirit's reassurance, they're putting their hands on my shoulder and stuff like that they will be fine. It's the disappointment. It's a disappointment and not understanding why other things are happening. You know what I mean? That sort of stuff. But the Spirit actually laughing and saying they actually don't care, because they live self-sufficient lives anyway. So I think that they'll be right as mass conscious. But I think what it's more so going to do is raise the consciousness of those who have been led down a certain path against their will up until this point. I think that's where the change is going to come, into that little circle.
Yeah, I was just thinking about duality and contrast.
Oh, yeah. This card, like I say, I want people to know I don't read tarot card meanings per se. I just use them as a guide when I channel. But they're going to cut through the red tape, cut through the BS, and they're going to conquer whatever this is. Powerful card. This is a rising of individual power, a sense of achievement. There's going to be such a sense of achievement. They're going to disregard the rest. I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of this, let's just say, no matter who you are. So that it'll be fine. It'll be fine here, because they're very grounded. That's what is beautiful about this community. And they're not giving us enough credit, because we're grounded people. We live off the land. Yeah, look at that, Queen of Wands. queen of their castle. They're taking their power back. They're going to take their power back, and that's going to cause an amazing domino effect. People will probably want to come here, regardless of whether it's a flood zone, or people want to come here because they want to be part. And like I was going to say before is that the most times that people want something is for the feeling of having it. That's all they want, anything in life. So they think, once I get that house, that car, I'll feel better. I'll feel great. It's not how it happens. You need to feel that way first and foremost. So, yeah, no, they're going to conquer, and they're definitely going to get their dues. Their karmic reward will come as a result of this. They'll rebuild. They'll do it smarter. They'll do it because they know the land proper. It's kind of like they're going back to cultural kind of ways of being. That's how it feels.
Mm. We
so
have
that will be
tribes.
fine.
Yeah, we have tribes of groups of people. Common, like attracts like, groups and tribes. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some significance of just going back to the land and going back to the old ways of doing things. And I think it's actually going to show me like a wave. I think it's going to be a wave, and it's going to go up and down. They're going to collect other people along the way, but that takes time. So, and at the end of the day, we're better off not talking. We're not even best focused on the ones who aren't doing it, don't care, don't have any desire for the shift. We're better off to focus on ourselves and our immediate community and build on that. But I think that's what's going to happen. Because they just keep telling me the words reward. They keep saying reward. It's not because you did that, I'm going to get this back. It's not ego at all. It's the fact that you took care of Mother Earth. You do what you need to do and use, less power and do whatever it is, and you will be rewarded. Like you'll get your karmic reward for that. That'll be fine. Definitely. Yeah. I think once again, it's just the mental health. I think it's just the mental health that most people have just really got to be really careful of. If you need help, reach out. I know what that feels like because I'm not an asker. I'm a giver. I'm of service. I struggle to receive sometimes. But for your own mental health, it is very, very important that people at least talk to each other. Just ask if they're okay.
Mm.
That was the hardest thing for me for 5 days is I had no communication, no phone, nothing, no communication whatsoever. I didn't know whether my dad was all right. I didn't know whether my friends down the road were all right. No communication whatsoever. And that's a horrible feeling to be in. So, if you can't help in any other way, at least just open up your email, open up your inbox, let someone talk to you. Yeah, because once you purge it, you feel so much better. So I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. Look, I think that we might still have some more bad weather to brave through at the moment, but I'm hoping that those communities don't see, any further issues here on out in the rest of March, because I think they've had a lot, and I know the universe will only give them as much as they can bear, but I think they've certainly had a full table worth in the past week or two.
Well, it's hard because the universe is responding to our mass conscious energy. So the more people that are fearing or worrying or concerned, the more worries and fears and concerns are going to come back to us. And that's why I get on and do what I do. If I can just help shift the energy of a small pocket of people just to rise up a little bit, beautiful. But that's what the world needs right now. They need an uprising of energy, even if it's just through prayer. Anybody can pray. Anybody can sit there and wish better on somebody else and for themselves. We need to rise that energy. And honestly, I've seen a few other readers say the same thing. You can lead the horse to the water, but you can't make them drink. You know what I mean? But honestly, it's an energetic change we need on this planet, not a material thing. And everyone's going to react differently.
That's my hope, I think, here is that what we can do here is show the possibilities, talk to as many people out there doing it, taking action, the people that have felt they need to go in a different direction, and they've pioneered. And yeah, you can take the horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink. But I really hope, and this is my hope for the channel, is that we can really inspire a few people to take their own action, because then that energetic snowball starts to move forward, and perhaps whether it's 40 years from now, 30, 50 years from now, we can look back and we can know in our own center that we made and contributed to the life that other people are now leading in Australia.
Absolutely.
And all over the world.
You've got to be and you've got to become the change you wish to see in the world. And some people need a catalyst for that, and I do it for my kids. Like, my kids are the reason why I've been through so much trauma. Most people who know me know the trauma I've been through over the last, especially 3 years and whatnot. I can curl up in a ball and stay inside and become, whatever. But you got to rise up. You got to be the person you want yourself to be, and for your kids to be, and be the person you want your kids to be, because they're watching all the time. Right. The first thing my son said was, we didn't really know what was going on because we didn't have any media or whatever. But the first thing my son was, I'll go into my clothes and pick out some clothes to give to some kid who hasn't got anything. He was willing to part with his Nerf guns, for crying out loud. Now that's sacrifice. That's a big one. Oh yeah. But you know what I mean? Everybody has it in them. They have that spirit in them. You need to keep the environments conducive so they can explore that and show that and be the best possible version of themselves. Yeah, and as adults. So just quickly, they said, don't stay out of the gossip. They stay out of the gossip. What's going on? They're bored little keyboard warriors. Stay out of the gossip. It's terrible, but it will get better. What's going to come of this is more of an internal conflict within people. They're going to start questioning things. They're going to, like, for me, I'm showing gratitude because I don't need a lot of things. If I've got food on my plate and stuff, people are going to actually start looking at their lives and going, wow, I really don't have it that bad. I might actually step out of ego and show some gratitude for a change. So gratitude and appreciation and all that sort of stuff. If they're battling insurance companies, wanting the money, wanting the greed, wanting the big fancy home now and all the money, then wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that. Either which way, they're going to be victorious. So,
and that's a positive note. I think that no matter what's happening right now, the people who do put that effort in, put the energy into creating their own reality, they're going to be victorious.
Exactly. And what's more exciting is that once you get that momentum going, you will start drawing people who are the same to you, opportunities, resources, being in the right place at the right time, having the right conversation, all that sort of stuff. And when people get a whiff of that and actually start experiencing that, they couldn't imagine life any other way. It's so much fun. It is so much fun. Spirit just asked me to pull an oracle, like literally separate the deck, and we got blessed change. So like we can't go wrong. This is a blessed change, even though it would have been nice to come a different way. But what more of a wake-up call for people? What more of a wake-up call for people?
And that sort of goes back to what you were saying just before around what we said at the very beginning of, I think I may have mentioned at the beginning of the live stream was, parents, when we sit down, we look at our children, we think, we want a better life for our children. And, if you put effort in, now I'm losing my train of thought, but sorry, you want to say something?
No, I was going to say, I think a word that Spirit keep pulling me up on lately is the word work. Because work has quite a low vibrational connotation to it. You think work, you think hard slog, you think 9 to 5 and stuff like that. Not for everybody, but they've been pulling me up and saying, can you choose a different word or a different vibration to work? Because as soon as you say someone, you've got to get to work, they're like, oh, resistance.
Yeah.
I don't want to work. I want it easy. I want it freely. I just want it to land in my lap, and it can. But if I was to guide anyone right now, is to learn the law of attraction. Because it's working. It's at play in our life. you'll have one house that got completely flooded, and you'll have one that just relatively got unscathed. Like, how did that happen? It's because of the energies that were in that home. Hard to believe.
That would be hard to believe, but seeing it in person, you would probably sit back and go, wow, how did that happen?
Yeah. I mean, I can even say myself, thanks to living this lifestyle, I joke all the time and say I dodge bullets left, right, and center. Like, I'll pew, 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 pew. I'm like, woo, you know, come at me. But, you know, I may lose all my material possessions and all that, but I know that I've got tomorrow, and I'll keep going, and I'll manifest more of the same and all that sort of stuff. And when things do happen, it may happen around me, but it never really happens to me, if that makes sense. So a lot of people think that's because I put a protection barrier up and I talk to spirit and they've got my back and all that. Yes, I have that. I have that, but I'm still human. So if I don't vibrate in optimism and anything more than fear in that, I'm still going to manifest fear. I'm still going to manifest worry, lack. I can still do all that myself as well, no matter what spirit are doing. But I'm just very passionate about it. But honestly, the motto in our family is lead by example and learn by doing. And people just need to make that choice for themselves. Yeah.
Sorry, not just talking, walking the talk. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you very much. This has been a fantastic show. We are almost at the 1 hour mark. I think I've learned a lot actually in this first episode around even just the controls here. You know, sitting in the live stream, around things I'm going to have to consider in terms of improving. But look, I hope that in the next live stream we've made some adjustments. I think we'll just continue improving. But I've had a great time. Thanks, Danielle, talking about
no, thank you. It was good.
Yourself, the community, and having a bit of a chat around homeschooling. So, to those that jumped on the broadcast this morning, Carrie and Naomi and Donna, thank you very much for joining. And we'll see you again next week.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you, everyone. And it's signing off from Inspired Action and Miss Psychic D.
Yeah.
Have a great day,
tomorrow
everyone.
for our live.
Bye.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Bye.
See you later.
Oh.